Happy Monday.
Yes, happy Monday.
Thanks for
Yes,
being on the podcast and being here to chat.
thank
Um,
you for having me.
lem- yeah, no worries, man. So let me just start by asking the stupid, simple question. Raleigh? How do you
Yes,
pronounce it? What do you
correct.
what do you tell
It's
people?
it's interesting. It is Raleigh. As an artist, we kind of put an accent on the end, so it's like Raleigh. So kind of
Okay.
like a to just kind of like slightly differentiate the brand from the personal. But there's like three ways to say my name. It's Rawl, Raleigh, and then the artist name Raleigh. So
Do you like have a preference?
not really. I think at this point, I think with the music stuff, then yeah, definitely like Raleigh is what we're branding, what we're going for. But if you know me, then it doesn't matter because my family will call me Rawl because I'm a junior, so that's where the Raleigh came from. My
Okay.
father was Rawl, and it is really pronounced Rawl. Um, and so, but I was a junior, so they always called me Raleigh since I was born, basically.
Well, so that's interesting because you're Guyanese-Canadian.
Mm.
I speak a few languages, so I'm familiar with like how things are conjugated and sometimes how words are changed with endings or suffixes, suffixes, whatever
Yeah.
the word, whatever plural of suffixes. Um, so is the name traditionally or typically Guyanese, and is that how you would put a junior emphasis on that name, Raleigh?
Yeah, it is a Caribbean name mostly. That it's funny because I ran into someone and they were Caribbean and they knew, so they were like, "That's a very Caribbean name." I'm like, "It is," because normally people would know how to say it or they would pronounce it raw, and they're like, "I'm so sorry if I said it wrong." I'm like, "No, that's right." And then I would say it's Raleigh, and I guess that would be the preference, at least to me, from differentiating me from my father. So that's how it kind of is said.
Well, so if Rawl is senior, you said junior is Raleigh. So how do you get from Rawl to Raleigh?
Well, my family didn't want to have confusion when calling either myself or my father. 'Cause both our
Mm,
names are technically raw. I have his first, middle, and last. I'm not the
okay.
firstborn, so I don't know how I got the name. I'm this his firstborn. I'm his secondborn. My eldest brother has a whole different name, and then I got the exact name as my father. So it just became confusing. So they just said Raleigh. They put like a accent on the end as well, to differentiate us. That was really the only thing, because technically my name is Rawl, if we're being
Mhm.
correct, like politically correct. I answer to that too, so that doesn't bother me. But I think growing up with the Raleigh and everybody calling me Raleigh and then calling my father Rawl, it just kind of stuck. And then when I was
Yeah.
doing my music, the same thing was kind of happening. People were like, "Is it Raw?" So I was like, "It's Raleigh," and that was my way of kind of differentiating me as an artist versus me as an individual, and then versus me as like my father's son, Raw. So
Yeah.
it's all a little bit confusing, but it makes sense to me. So
No, that's all good. It's all good. Why don't you just put an accent on the E?
yeah, I thought about that, but I'm so far in as far as like marketing and branding, and I've changed. Originally, actually, before I went by my actual name, I was going by King Alexander, which was a nickname. King was a
Okay.
nickname I was given, and then Alexander is my middle name. So it was just something I went by, and then a few years back, um, my team was like, we should like do a poll, and then it was kind of 50-50, but Raleigh just seemed more brandable. So we just started out with that, and I haven't used an accent the whole time. So my team is kind of meticulous about SEO, so
Oh, for
we
sure.
haven't added the accent.
I'm all about SEO too.
Mhm.
Like we're doing, tons of marketing and development for our artists, and I agree that like consistent branding is super important. You can also show eras, right? Branding can be limited to a year, 2 years, 3 year, an album cycle, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just forever.
Right.
So you could just add an accent. It's not like you're going from Raleigh or Raleigh to King Alexander. That would be a huge
Yeah,
SEO
yeah,
change.
that would be. I think
I
you
think
just
the
sparked
accent on
something
the
in my
two.
mind. I'm like, the next level up, that's the next level up of the branding and growing the brand, that could be the thing. That
I mean, it's an accent aigu, which is like
Mhm.
showing the growth and the momentum.
Yeah,
So there's
yeah,
symbolism
I
there.
like that. Yep.
It's funny. I was actually going to ask you about the label
Mhm,
because you're independent,
mhm.
King Alexander,
Yeah.
and you said that's your name. So you're actually born and you're named King Alexander.
Sorry, the last question, repeat that again.
Oh no, no, I was asking about the label, right?
Uh-huh.
Because when you look up your music, it's under King
Alexander
Alexander,
Inc. Yeah.
but that's the name you were given. That's your birth name.
No, so my birth name is Raleigh Alexander Harding, and then
Oh,
and
okay.
so Alexander is my middle name, and so
Yep.
King was a nickname in school,
Nice.
social settings. I kind of was a socialite on and off many years. I kind of still am, but I've kind of like stepped back from just being like a socialite and being more intentional about because I'm building a brand. So it's like a socialite is kind
Yeah.
of here, there, and everywhere. And I can't really do that the more evolve as an artist. Um, so King Alexander Inc. was born as the label that when I decided to stay independent or be independent, that was the name I decided to give the label. It's also that's the Canadian version. So on the American side, because I've been in America for like about going on 5 years. Um, we have Raleigh Music Records, so RMR.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. You got a lot of things going on.
Mhm.
So where are you living now and where were you born?
So I was born in Georgetown, Guyana. I am actually Guyanese, Caribbean,
Official.
official, and I won't bust out the accent. It might slip out, but um, and then I grew up in Toronto. Most of my life was spent in Canada. I am Canadian. I went to Canada when I was like 3, and then grew up there most of my life. Been back to visit Guyana a bunch of times, but and then I was living in Los Angeles. I'm currently in Los Angeles right now. I do have to catch a flight later after this and go to Atlanta. So I relocated to Atlanta this year, and I've
Okay.
been there since the beginning of this year. But I've been in LA since 2021.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been over. Um, I know Toronto well.
Mhm.
I was born there. I lived there for most of my life. How did you find, I guess living there as a Guyanese immigrant and like starting to find your way in music versus now LA and then Atlanta?
Whew, look, I'm
The
I'm
heat is on.
I'm gonna be 100% transparent because this is a
Good.
passionate topic of mine that I kind of reeled in a little bit. I'm not advocating so much for it as much right now, but growing up in Canada is great, as you know. Like Canada, being in America now, like I have a lot more insight as to like the contrast of the two countries, and I definitely appreciate my Canadian citizenship 1000%. I would never give it up. I would never. It is the best country in the world to live in. Growing up as a Caribbean male in Canada was actually really great for me. I find Canada to be probably the most multicultural place in the world, the most welcoming, giving, loving, accepting place in the world. Obviously, nowhere is perfect and not everybody is perfect.
For
So we
sure.
have, it's not like we don't have situations where people don't agree or people have biases or whatever the case may be. But it is like one of the best places, if not the best place on earth, for anybody to kind of grow up, live, have a life free of, trauma for the most part. You know what I mean? As
Yep.
far as all the things that are going on in the world today. As musically growing up there, you know, there's so much artisticness about Canada and Canadians, especially in Toronto, especially with the multiculturalism and all that it brings. Canada has the best world-class talent there is. That's been proven many times over. Unfortunately, we don't really have the foundation I have found that America has or that Europe might have
Yep.
now because Europe really developed its talent and its scene, entertainment scene, its music scene over the last decade or so. Whereas I find that Canada, and specifically in Toronto, um, it's still not really existent. Like you have talent that's there. You know, we're artistic. I grew up around other, artistic people. We have places you can go play music, bands can go, you can go listen to music. You have music in school programs. You have
Yeah.
many aspiring artists and people that dream to be that, but we don't have development on the levels that it should be. We don't really have a framework for the business part. And by that, I mean, you know, Canadians making money in Canada from music by Canadians
Yeah.
for Canadians. um, I am a member of, well, I don't, it's been a while since I've actually participated, but I'm a member of Factor as a jury member. And so, I did a lot of research around how to get funding and how artists are supported in Canada as because I was one and I was like, well, and not only that, I'm a person of color. So there is a little bit of systemic barriers there when it comes to artists of color in Canada. So those were
Mhm.
issues that I found as well. But there's no system in the sense of like if I want to, if a label is trying to sign me, the labels may not have big budgets like the American labels or the Europe labels. And
For
then
sure.
the funding that's for independent artists that, Factor exists and these programs exist, but the labels are also eating off of that money, which
Mm.
isn't necessarily how it's supposed to be designed. So it's just it was a journey. So I found that growing up in Canada, it was good for me to start and for me to have be immersed in such a multicultural space in which I was able to be inspired by other people, other music, and then especially inspired by my own roots. Um, but I had to leave. I had to leave. I looked at it like there's this thing where if you no great Canadian artists, maybe with the exception of Celine Dion and maybe one other, has been produced in Canada. And by
Right.
produced I mean full career, superstardom, global talent, global name. If you look at our greats today, from Justin Bieber down to Drake to, Alyssa, well, maybe Alyssa Cara would kind of, I feel like she kind of had a good run in Canada. Maybe Jesse Reyes, but even then, it's like um, the Tamias and the Deborah Cox and and then of course Avril Lavigne had a great run, but we don't have a variety of those stories, and most of the world talent that we have that have superseded even some of the names I've said were made in America, or they go to Europe. We have some big names in Europe that are Canadian, and they're
Mhm.
huge international successes, and nobody knows them back home. So.
So when you say made in America, you're talking more about like the development of the sound or development of the career, like marketing. What do
I'm
you
talking
mean
about the
specifically?
good question. That's good. Like I'm talking about the business because what I'll say is
Okay.
that being in
Okay.
America, man, so many Canadian producers, songwriters. So in my view, it would seem that we're still like the top, performing country, even in other spaces and other nations. But the business part about it, it's the getting with people who know how to be a music manager, who know how to build an artist's career, who then also groom an artist in the sense of like, let's get development on you. Like, how are you
Yeah.
developing as an artist? What is your sound? Then getting with the right production and then getting with the right, and then marketing, and then
Yeah.
having building an entire team around that you can then, and then that team then monetizes you and the music because
Mhm.
and just having that whole aspect of it, and then engaging. There's a lot of engagement with music professionals, the music. I found this on the web. I'm sorry, my Siri is listening to me. There's a lot of engagement around music professionals and the industry as itself, and then it's the citizens in local areas.
Yeah.
The radios really engage with the local areas, the A&Rs and the music executives, the music managers. They partner with the businesses, they partner with the government, they partner with everybody, and then they create a funnel and create an environment where money is now generated to support everybody, including the artists, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. So that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean. And there was a narrative. Some people tried to say like, oh, certain music doesn't sell in Canada and this doesn't sell in Canada, and that just simply isn't the case. Because every time you turn around, some American act or Europe act or big festival is sold out in Canada, and it's usually big international acts that are not Canadian. So,
You know, I mean, the end of the day, this podcast really comes down to authenticity. So I really appreciate the transparent answer. I love that because what I want to do here is not just get to know you and bring out your authentic self, but also like leave knowledge for all the other people that are aspiring to do the same thing you are,
mhm.
and myself learn, and grow. You said so many things in there that I want to pick apart.
Yeah.
Uh, One of the first things that struck me was you said that creatively it's amazing. I agree with you. There's so much creativity in Canada. We have so many smart people here. I think that there's a lot of love in this country, and so people work with each other really well. We find like really cool people to inspire us or to collab with, and then like great art comes from that. Um, you said being a person of color in Canada that you found that there were roadblocks, which is so interesting considering you and I know Canada as this place where fuck color. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Like I'm 45. My best friends are Jamaican,
mhm,
Japanese, Iranian,
mhm,
Jewish, Irish, and all we do when we get together is have fun, make fun of each other. Like it's
mhm.
it's it's crazy, and there's no bigotry because we're all taking the piss out of each
Yeah.
other. You know,
Yeah.
so it's so weird that being in Canada and that's how we are as a society that you feel like there are blocks in the industry. Can you talk about that point?
Whew, yes. And to your point, so yes, Canada, you know, so it's funny because I'll just quickly say like being in America, the first time I really ever experienced racism was here in America. And I didn't know it was happening because I grew up in
Mm,
Canada. And
okay.
so, it was like a 10-minute situation of processing, trying to figure out like what is this interaction? And then I was like, oh shoot, I'm black and I'm in America. Because,
Mm,
my blackness has always been in the back of my mind because like you stated, everybody is so mixed and friends and we're like family, we're brothers. That's literally the experience I had.
mhm,
And so a lot of Americans have asked me my experience, and I tell them, I'm like, even racism is, first of all, a construct, so it's not real. We know that in Canada,
agreed.
we're educated to a certain degree in Canada. If somebody is being ignorant in Canada and they're invoking race as something they want to be ignorant about, it's more on a ignorant level. It's not so much on a white supremacist, which
For
is the
sure. I
difference.
think it's lack of education.
Yeah, it's like America's such a white supremacist mindset, and it's very different. Someone just and then this is how I explain it. So the racism part, it's like someone just being ignorant. They want to be an asshole, so they're gonna say some shit about your skin. But
For
in
sure.
actuality, it's not about white supremacy or any other of those things. Like it's not really, at least in my experience and my
Mm,
observation. So going back, tying it to what I experienced for people of color in Canada is more of a systemic thing. And there was a situation when the whole George Floyd situation happened in America. There was a lot of music initiatives across Canada, like how do we combat this? And Factor was one of them, and they did this whole like during Black History Month. I'll never forget. During Black History Month, they were like, we want to support our black creatives and this and that and the third. I forget what the exact messaging was, but it was along the lines of like, let's have this Zoom call, everybody sign on, we're gonna tell you about Factor, we're gonna tell you what's available. And so I got onto that call. They had their black facilitators leading the charge, and that's a very important key to me, and that I also mention in conversations. So like, okay, there's black people that work at Factor. A lot of people don't know who works at Factor,
sure.
and that's only because they either didn't research or whatever. And so they proceeded to go on with the Zoom and during the pandemic, and then it was literally them just going through factors programs. And so, a lot of people, I raised the question, and there's people from across the country on this call. I raised the question. I said, well, what does this have to do directly with how you're going to support black creatives? And they
Mhm,
were kind of like, oh, well, this and that. We're showing you our programs. We're telling you. So I'm like, oh, so it's an infomercial. It's not that you guys are allocating or setting apart or stepping forward to do more. It's more so you guys are just showing face. And I said that, and then it kind of disrupted the entire thing. Everybody kind of agreed, and then the executives from behind the veil came forward, all the white board members, whoever they were, and it was very telling because it was like, okay, so this is a real systemic issue, and by that I mean, when you look at the music industry in Canada, I had to do even more research after that time, and I found that there's a lot of monopoly in the sense
Yep.
of the same people own the radio, that own the television stations, that own this and on the third, which to me is not really a problem for Canada because I feel like like if we were in American terms, I tell people all the time like white people in Canada are lovely as hell. Like we don't. I was like, I've never known white people to be like what they've been made out to be, especially in Canada. Obviously, they are like that elsewhere in the world in that specific group, but it's like that's not what it's like. So I'm not necessarily concerned about the who owns and the color of their skin and things like that. However, the important thing was that even when you look at the board of directors, there was no representation across the board in the music industry for people of color. And if they were out of people who were out of touch, who were not either in the field, who haven't had careers, or you can't reach them. They're just there in title and name and image. And then on
Hmm.
top of that, it was the other thing is like when there's no representation, at least from my perspective, I was like, you can't expect someone who doesn't come from my walk of life or my household, if I were to break it down into a more micro thing, black households experience, especially of Caribbean nature, have a whole different experience on earth
Yeah.
and things. So it's like if you have a board of directors that doesn't represent that, if you're having a board meeting, who's going to raise the concern? Who's going to say, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea, or maybe we're leaving it, so I can't fault that it is the way it is. That's how I decided to look at it because I know Canada and I know Canadians. But that still doesn't solve the fact that there's no representation, there's lack of funding for us. When we advocate for it, we're kind of heard and dismissed. No real change has happened. On that same call, Factor was like, "Well, we've raised the budget. That's how we're helping Black creators." I was like, "Well, the budget was going to raise anyway. The budget since the inception of Factor, you guys have raised the budget. So I mean, that's not a." And so part of like I'm a very informed, educated and person, and I show up in a way most artists don't, because I learned early that I can't be a dumb artist. I can't just be
Amazing.
the artist and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
know anything, because that's how everybody from the Beatles down have been taken advantage of, by the business. So I know it was a long-winded question.
No, no, no.
And
That's amazing. That
yeah.
that that I love this conversation. I love how authentic you are. Fuck, I use that word too
No,
much.
that's great. Authenticity is
but
great.
but
Yeah.
keeping it real is so important. Yeah, man. There's so much I want to talk about. So going back to the original point about Canada and opportunity or business like being stronger in the U.S. I wonder how much of it comes down to like simple things. For example, the US is so much bigger, right? It's such a bigger market. It's also easier, as you know, to tour. When someone comes to Canada to tour, there's these massive spaces between like key markets, right? To go from Vancouver to Alberta or Vancouver to Calgary, sorry, is a way bigger drive than, I mean, you can hit multiple spots in one state and do like 2, 3 hour drives and have huge markets.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's also more money. I think there's also way more. There's way more competition in the US, and I'm a big believer that competition breeds innovation.
Hmm.
And you hit the nail on the head. In Canada, there's so much. There's so many guardrails. Like look at our telecommunications. There's like 3 players. And they don't let anyone else come in because they're like, oh, we built the infrastructure and it's not fair and we can't have other people. But because they're holding on to that and not letting innovation happen,
Hmm.
we're stuck with higher bills, we're stuck with poorer service quality because competition is what pushes people to say, oh, fuck, someone's eating my lunch
Hmm.
now. I got to figure out how to do better to grow that. I mean, look what happened with taxis when Uber all of a sudden came about, right?
Yeah.
And it was like,
Uber
oh,
is the devil. I had to go up against them legally. I got what I needed, but I'm telling you, like, woof. This-
that's a separate comment. You want to share that story?
but yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Do you want to share the Uber story or no?
Um, you know, again. it kind of ties into what we're talking about monopolies. And one of the things that Canadians are not aware of, especially those who are not living here or have spent a substantial amount of time here to integrate into the environment, is that corporations um, have, especially corporations like Uber, it's kind of like it's very hypocritical on many fronts in the sense that like Uber started for the very reason of like the taxis having a monopoly. And then, and then also cost and people being able to get from point A to point B and it be affordable,
Yeah.
this, that, and the third, and there being,
Yeah.
you know, enough availability of drivers and things like that. And then Uber rose quickly. It rose so quickly, it became so powerful, and it became so corporate. And when things become so corporate, it only becomes about money and power. And then when money, power, and politics get into the mix, it becomes an even worse monster, right? And so with Uber, Uber's new CEO and things, they're all about profit. They're undercutting driver pay. They're doing all kinds of things that they've paid so much money to cover up. Even now, autonomous driving. Uber is one of the biggest investors in get autonomous cars and not having drivers pick up people anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so they've literally switched from how they started, what started them, to becoming like they are now the taxi company, essentially. And I had a situation where someone had I got into a collision that was really bad, and I wasn't at fault. And at the time I was doing Uber. And as an artist, many artists, independent artists, have to have another hustle or side hustles because music is expensive. So I was doing Uber, and at the time the app was on, and so therefore it fell under, Uber's insurance and stuff like that, and I had to go up against them legally and their insurance company. It was a complete eye opener and a nightmare, but at the same time it taught me a lot about myself. And but it goes back to like what you're saying. It's these companies, they don't they somehow get afraid that competition is bad, but I'm an ex-athlete. So it's like,
Yeah.
and we're artists. So it's like
Mhm.
iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? So it's like it's just self-serving interest of certain individuals that get into those positions that then change the nature and the course of those businesses and those industries. And I think that's kind of what's taking place in Canada. And it kind of, and on a whole, when you look at Canada across the board outside of hockey, it hurts Canada's development because, yes, America is bigger, there is more money, but there's more money in what context? Because as we've learned, Canada can send money away. You know what I mean? Like they've got money apparently. Like our money is going when we don't, oh, we're going to help, and we don't really have a say. And if we are against, it doesn't matter.
I know
So
what
there
you mean.
there is money. It's just a matter of like again the infrastructure. So when you said that, yeah, you mentioned these companies like, oh, we built the infrastructure. They built a infrastructure, an infrastructure that never developed, that never grew past where it's at.
Mhm.
That at this point is everything is just about corporate buyouts and who owns what, and iHeart takes over this, and Flow doesn't exist anymore, and these stations right, and it becomes about advertising, and it's not an infrastructure, it's not a music infrastructure. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So again, it brings me back to my point of there's no damn infrastructure.
I mean, I agree with you on a lot of this.
Mhm.
On a positive note,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
think that we are going into a huge change. I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, there will be massive global societal change where the old guard, the old system starts to completely collapse and erode. There's going to be more of a groundswell by the people for the people enlightenment that happens. I don't want to get like, too far
Yeah.
out there, but
I'm right
there,
there with you though. I'm on that
well,
same
so
track.
astrology, I don't know if you look into it at all. There's one amazing astrologist that I follow, or astronomer. I always mix up the two. Pam Gregory, she's in the UK. And she said the planetary alignment that's kind of happening right now happens roughly every 270 years. And the last time that this happened was during the American Revolution, where basically, like, that country was born out of like the people saying, we want freedom, we want independence.
Right.
I think we're going to go into a huge period of growth and enlightenment. And if you look at technology, the way people are communicating, the people are fed up with like being told what to do. And now you and I are having real conversations. I'm optimistic.
Yeah,
I'm 45. I got kids. I'm optimistic,
I'm
and I
optimistic
think
for
that
her.
conscious business, people that are doing things for profit but for good reasons, that's going to start to really take hold and reshape the industry. So I'm there with you, man. I want to like reshape things
Yes.
and bring a lot of good back to this system society. And it's so funny that you mentioned the systemic stuff because again, I've spent my whole life colorblind. Like
Hmm.
Europe, Canada, US, doesn't matter where I was, like there was no race.
Hmm.
It was just my bros, my girls.
Hmm.
That's it. Because we all bleed blood.
Hmm.
We're all the
We
same.
are the
You know
same.
what I mean? You shoot any one of us and we're all bleeding red. Nothing. If we don't bleed red, then there's a big question
Yeah,
mark
yeah.
that I don't know that.
Might be an alien.
Yeah, but I think it was Morgan Freeman. I saw a video where he was saying like, how do we fix the problem? You can get away with things like Black History Month and things like that. And I started to think about that once, and I said, it's kind of like the cancer thing where someone that has an affliction, someone that has cancer, they don't want you to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry you have cancer." They just want you to be treating them the way that, like in a normal way. We're like, "Hey, I know that you're having a crap day, but how are things? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to go for lunch?" I really feel like societally that's the same thing,
Yeah,
right? Like I don't want to come to you and be like, "Hello, black
yeah,
friend." It would just be like, "Yo, what's up, Raleigh? Like
yeah.
how are things going?"
Quickly I'll say this, and this is very controversial because I went to University of Windsor for politics, and one of
Nice.
my not so far fetched, but one of my goals was or dreams was like, well, maybe one day I'll be the prime minister of Canada. We'll see. But that's so like, who knows? However, here's what I'll say, and this is the thing, right? You hit it on the nose. We are all the same. We are in like uniquely distinct by our pigment, skin. It's all science.
Yep.
It's still skin.
Yep.
You got it, I got it. It's the same thing. Um, just minor differences in chemicals and things like that. Um, and here's the thing. I've done so much work. I do a lot of work privately, a lot of research privately, because like as an artist, I'm very spiritual. Very spiritual. I'm super artistic, and that's what drives me. And being on the level of artistic and spirituality that I'm on, it drove me for like I have an unquenchable thirst for like knowledge because it also feeds my artistic expression. And so I realized like I had to connect those things. And one of the things that I'll say is this: in the relation to human beings and people of different colors and different backgrounds, I've done a lot of self work, and in that self work, I've realized it's the same. I teach people how to treat me. If I'm
Yeah.
if something was done wrong to me, okay, something was done wrong to me. Now I can address that something was done wrong to me. Whether or not the culprit is going to take accountability for that is outside of my control.
Yeah.
But what is within my control is how I respond and how I deal, heal, or cope. You know what I mean? And I the issue with racism, one is a made up construct that we all now ingrained, right? It was a insidiously crafted construct that spread. So on top of that, with that came trauma, mental, physical, emotional, towards a group of people, and not and this trauma was spread amongst other group of there's like now we're seeing things happen. It's not uniquely to Black people, but Black people have suffered tremendously for years and years and decades, especially in America. You know what I mean? However, if I am sick, let's say I get cut and I go to the doctor and the doctor patches me up, but the doctor's like, well, I can stitch this, but I can't heal it. You're gonna have to go home, and your body's gonna have to do the rest of the work. Here's these antibiotics. It'll help ease the pain, this, that, and the third. But if you don't follow these instructions, you might not heal. So, but so it's up to you now when you go home to make sure that you complete your healing. If we were able to take that concept and apply it to black people, and I do this because as a self work that I've done for myself, nobody's responsible for my healing from the trauma I've experienced but me. Nobody else has the responsibility, especially as an adult, to teach people how to treat me but me. Nobody else has the responsibility to control myself based on that treatment outside of me. So it's like if someone's treating me bad and I'm trying to teach you how to treat me, my next course of action is to remove myself. This is a concept that black people are responsible for. And so this is
Mm,
where it becomes controversial because, and this is not unique to black people, but we're so inclined to be victims. And we learn that as children because we learn that, like, oh, if I'm the victim, someone's gonna care for me. My parents are gonna take my side, my teacher, my whoever. Like, this is or if, in your relationship and we want people to sympathize and empathize. So we play victim instead of stand in the fact that, okay, this shit happened.
yeah,
I'm not, okay, if I'm getting help, great, and support, great. If I'm not, then I have to be able to show up for myself and figure this out. And
yeah,
so that is the one thing, and they play it down, play it to like, oh, black people just they don't know how to come together. Absolutely no, but they don't know because they have there's another program there. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So like they don't there's another program there and they don't understand most of this topic. When it comes to this topic, they're so caught in the trauma and the victimization of it and how they feel instead of processing those whatever those emotions are that are making them feel that way, and
mhm,
then processing it and then figuring out a course of action. So that whether that being as a community, it's easy for us to look at other communities like, oh, the Chinese this and the white community this and the whatever community this. It's easier to look outside instead of us going, hey, you know what, let me boycott Bell Media because they're not, let's not sign up for Bell products. Let's not sign up for because if that's an actionable solution for a community. Because when you look at other
mhm,
communities, that's how they move. They organize, they figure out, okay, well, what is the problem? What is it these other people are not doing for us? How can we do this for ourselves? We don't have
yeah,
and then to say that, oh, we don't have resources, we do because we're working, we're spending money, we're a part of
yeah,
society, we contribute to those things, but these are the things that are not taught to us or that we don't understand. And so
yeah,
that's on a macro level. On a micro level, if I was just looking at myself, these are the things I had to learn about myself. I was like, well, Wally, if nobody likes your damn music, they don't like your damn music. Do you like your music? Like, are
yeah,
you gonna still show up as this artist because is this who you really are? And if it is, then be that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
somewhere along the line, somebody gotta feel it. You know what I'm trying to say? And then those are your people. Do things with intention and go where you're celebrated. And if you're not celebrated in certain spaces, doesn't make sense. It goes back to the business stuff. If I'm a R&B, soul, pop, and mind you, I'm an artist that I don't really care for genres. Like there's certain music I wouldn't normally relate to, but if I want to make a damn heavy metal song one day, then I'm gonna do it. So, but again, it goes back to the business. If I were promoting, I have a new Afrobeat song, it doesn't make sense for me to go where the heavy metal people are and say,
yeah,
play my Afrobeat song. So I'm just trying to, I always try to relate things on a level in which people can, because it's all connected. It really, really is. So not
yeah.
getting on, because this I can go on for this, but
No, no, no. Your passion is palpable, man.
yeah.
I love it, and you said again so many things that I agree with. I've done a lot of work on myself over the last 2 years. My life had like a huge change. My wife left me, and I have no shade towards her at all. You have to have destruction in order to have creation, right? There's so many things that have to happen for us. You have to go through the fire to come out the fire. You don't just put it out. You got to walk through, and that fire shapes you. You talked about iron sharpening iron before. It's funny how, I mean, I want to say for decades, because there's all this technological advancement that's happened from television to radio to, like, MP3s, now AI and all this stuff. We've been as a society constantly pushed outwards. Look what's happening, go out here. But you hit the nail on the head. We have to go inwards to deal. to heal, right? You got to feel, deal, heal.
Mhm.
Um, and if you don't do that, then you're constantly chasing something else. You're constantly holding other people to account, but really we should be holding
Yeah.
ourselves to account,
Yeah.
and I'm at this point in my journey now where one of my counselors, therapists is like, hey, you've been doing such a great job getting towards this amazing understanding of the duality of your existence, and now we need to start getting you into oneness.
Mm.
And now I'm
Alignment.
starting to open my mind up to
Enlightenment.
like,
Yes.
yes, enlightenment, where it's like that person, murdered their children. That's horrific, but what is their story? What are they living with? What is the pain they're living with? What is the pain that caused them to do that in the first place?
Mhm.
Can you forgive them?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's their life, it's their
Yeah.
choice. Does it actually impact you? It's just this crazy idea that we have to be able to let go of things,
Yeah.
but
Because the other thing is like there's always cause and effect. And so what I recently learned is um you know grew up think, oh, this is the cause, this is the cause. You're so focused on what caused it, and and
yes.
and then you're not realizing that you became the effect of the cause.
Mm, mm,
And I was able to have in my therapy sessions realize that, like, well, when are you going to start being the effect? Like, sorry, the cause
cause.
and effect. And
Yeah.
when I heard that concept, I was like, it just blew me because I was like, yeah, like I can cause something to be a certain effect instead of be the effect of a cause. And
Yeah.
so many people, it doesn't matter what background they come from on this earth, who they are, have the ability to become the cause of an effect. And if you don't
Yeah.
like the being the effect of something negative, then become a cause of something positive.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so, and I don't know how old you are.
30, I
What's
just
your
turned 36, 25. No, okay.
happy birthday? Happy birthday.
Not just. It was a few months ago. It was in April.
Okay, well, belated.
Thank you.
Yes, I said I'm 45. It's man, there's so many things that I've heard and learned through my life, and then they just start to click, right? It's I think it was Gandhi, be the change that
Mhm,
you wish to see in the world, right?
mhm,
It cause and effect.
mhm.
That's really what he was saying. And you mentioned earlier about knowledge and the pursuit of knowledge and being an informed artist so that you don't get taken advantage of. And one of my favorite all-time artists is Tupac, and
Yeah.
he says, even a genius asks questions, right? It's like the philosopher kings back from was it Plato?
Mhm.
uh, Plato or Aristotle. I'm mixing up my philosophy right
You're
now.
good.
But like the point is, pursue that.
Yeah.
Understand what you're talking about. Another thing I learned during the pandemic was when you're having a debate with someone, it's usually the people that are calm that are coming from fact.
Yeah.
It's usually the people that are emotional that are coming from
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And you got to just stay rooted in yourself, stay grounded, learn as much as you can,
Mhm.
and also be constantly open to change, right? Because I only know what I know up until this point in time. You and I have this conversation. You're bringing up things about what it's like to be a black man in the Canadian music industry, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't thought of that,
Mhm.
and boom, my position is now
And you see
changed one
right there, why
percentage away.
would you? Because that's not the experience you're having. You're
Yes.
having the experience you're having in a different body, and in a different from a different group of people of
Mhm.
human. So this is the part I try to tell people. I'm like, you can't hold somebody accountable for an experience they're not having
Yes.
because how would they know? And to really know something, you have to have the experience. You have to go through and live it. Like, I see a guitar in the back. I don't know how to play the damn guitar. I haven't sat and had the experience to learn. You know what I mean? But it's really, we've gotten to this place of like confusing and making everything seem like it's so complicated. It's very simple. And even to your point about geniuses ask questions. That's why they're geniuses, because they're asking questions to get an
Yeah.
answer. People who don't ask questions, that are just maybe smart, they're intelligent, but that's indoctrination. You're going off of what you've been taught. You're not forming an opinion based on questions that you've asked and research that you've done and coming to an answer that you have found to be true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very simple.
I'm with you. I feel like this could be like a 10-hour
Yeah.
podcast. So
I
what
gotta catch a flight soon, so I can't. But yeah.
I know. Well, I wanna take it because I immediately am hungry for more questions.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
immediately
yeah,
hungry about like, oh my God, I saw this video about all the richest families in Canada, and they just happen to like all, you know, be these white old immigrant European
yeah.
families, and they're holding on to their dynasties and their wealth, and I believe that that's something that they should do, right? But at the end of the
Absolutely.
day,
Yeah.
how much of that is informing
Mhm.
the decisions that are happening within the music industry or whatever else? I'm gonna put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that next time. Let's go back to you.
Okay.
Um, right on the front of your website, big bold letters, recording artist, actor, storyteller. I can see that now, you know, the stories because they come from you, you're passionate. How did you become this dude? Like, what was your family life like? How many siblings do you have? What turned you and you keep it short, but like what led you to all of a sudden have all this, you know, motivation, these stories, the desires to impact change, and then said, I'm making R&B music.
Um, you know, I always knew I just wanted to make music. Um, categorically, I guess R&B, soul, there's these constructs that are surrounded that were created, for deeper purposes. We won't go there, but my voice being soulful and this that, and the third, So I always knew I wanted to sing. My father was probably the first person that he's passed away a long time ago, but he was the first person that sang that I heard. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be like him in that way. And then I have how many siblings do I have? About five. I can't remember right now, but some of them in which we don't have any, life happened, and we got that
Of course.
sibling adversary stuff going on. But um, other than that, how I got here was trauma. It's like a trauma, and not. I'm not gonna specifically because everybody does like, oh, I come from the hood, and I come from the ghetto. I'm not gonna do that. I came from freaking life. Like life happened to me, like it happened to you, like it happens
Yep.
to everyone. And homelessness, school, high school, public school, society, social settings, relationships, um, and not having a blueprint on how to do life caused me a lot of
Yeah.
trauma. And then also being told as an artist, we don't, and this is what it is. People think artists are divas, and yes, we are. We are super, like, in the sense of, and I look at it like, because when someone tries to tell you that there's a limitation, and art, there's no limitation to art. So as an artist, we feel that. So it's like someone telling you in real life, like, oh, you can't do this because you're from this group, or you. It translated the same way to me, and I always was like, this doesn't make no sense. This can't be real. Like it can't. I can't be in existence and it be like this. Like, what I mean? Like spiritually, as a spiritualist, as a spiritual being operating a body, I didn't really understand that connection growing up, but like it was always so strong. I couldn't articulate or even sometimes fathom that I'm a spirit, but I felt it. It was like on a human level in society and having this experience in this black body. It's like, oh, okay, they said this. You can't do this. Oh, you can't go to that school, or you can't make me this music, or you can't eat Pop Tarts, or you gotta. It was like, who the hell do you think you like? Why am I here if everything, all these rules are meant to have me not live? What's the point of living if there is no life to live? Like that's how it translated to me. And went through suicidal thoughts, attempts, things like that. Life and that all these things you know, at first were kicking my ass, and and for whatever reason, I just wouldn't lay down. Even and then I was like, okay, well, I got to figure out why I just won't lay down. Even when I want to, I can't. So it's like, you know what? There's something more here, and after searching the outside, because everything that we're focused on is outside of us.
Yeah.
The question was like, well, do you love yourself? Do especially when you go through things like
Mm,
suicidal thoughts and suicide and whatever, it's like you don't love yourself. You don't know what that means. It's just
yeah.
words. It's just words. And I was like, well, what the hell does it mean to love yourself? If people don't love me, then what is the point? Like that's the mentality most of humanity has. And so I had to go on a journey in the sense of, and then music. It was literally music that saved my life. It was always music because within the music and the music that other people created, I found myself. And so it was like one of these things where it's like, well, if the music makes me feel like this and these people sing of these things and I hear these beautiful voices and these beautiful instruments, then the depth that I'm feeling is real. But how do I
Yeah.
how but it's not real outside. It doesn't seem to be real outside of me, which is true. It's not real outside of me. It's real within me. And then I was like, okay. So when people go, sometimes with juveniles and bad kids or whomever or criminals, society goes, "You're the bad guy. Something's wrong with you." And so I was like, okay, well, if something's wrong with me, then how do I was like, let me look at it. Let me look at myself. And then which is what people don't want to do. Nobody wants to look at the parts of
Yeah.
themselves. It's horrible. And the only reason it's horrible is because we weren't trained. We were
Yeah.
taught how to look at ourselves and understand that, like, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel insecurity. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay. It's okay if you sit with it and understand. This is that genius thing. Ask question. Why the hell do I feel like that? Why
Yeah.
do And then, okay, this is why I feel like that. And then, okay, if this is why I feel that, where does that come from? You gotta ask yourself these questions. And if you can't answer the question, you gotta help. You gotta seek professional help. Because
I, I, I,
yeah, go ahead.
I totally agree. I'll jump
Yeah.
in. I totally agree with you. First of all, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing so much about your story. And
Thanks.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to go for on this. And it's so funny how few people understand the concept of loving ourselves, right? Like everyone's like, "Oh, I'm ripped and I'm rich and I got this," but like that is not loving yourself. Those are great things, like good for you, but like, do you truly go inward and ask those questions for yourself? It sounds like you have found a love for yourself, and that happened to be through music. So that's kind of how you got from childhood to this, and now you're pursuing that, and that's also why you're so passionate. And you've got stories to tell because you feel that love and you want to share that effect
Mhm,
with people outwards, right?
mhm, mhm,
I'm in that same spot. I just want to do good as much as possible. And it's funny because growing up, I wasn't a religious household or anything like that. If anything, maybe a little spiritual, maybe a little philosophical. But my parents always said, "You're supposed to do good for goodness sake." It's like the song, right? Like
mhm.
there's no reason other than that to do it. I had another point which I have forgotten now,
Talk
but
so much.
yeah, yeah, no, no, it's okay. The self love is so important,
Mhm,
and I think that oh yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like there are too many people that are afraid to ask these questions. They're afraid of how they'll be perceived. You cheated on your wife. That's horrible.
mhm,
If you're living with it inside, what do you think's happening?
mhm,
That shit's festering.
mhm,
That's a cancer.
mhm.
There's
And,
nothing
and
wrong
it's
with
even
with
deeper than that. Sorry, not to cut you, but even like something as like issues with relationships or marital problems. Like, you know, those things are bad, but again, those things are all rooted in something else. And it usually has to
correct.
do with, communication. So everybody's like, communicate, communicate, communicate. And the one person you never communicate is yourself, which is why we end up doing things that we're not proud of or we're not happy for, and we make mistakes because we think we're communicating. Oh, and then you, because I've been here. So it's like you try to do something to make the situation better because you want something to work out and you want this other person to be happy, but you cannot make anybody else anything they don't want to be.
Yeah,
And that part of communication to yourself is so important because I've realized that I'm like, well, shit, if I want you, like say I'm trying to be in a relationship, I want you, but then in reality, it's like, why do I want you? You know what I mean? Like, are you the one? And then it's like, well, no, you're not, you know, but I'm in lust right now, but am I telling myself that? And then am I honest with myself to be like, am I honest enough to be like, look, I, if we were gonna be together, this would just be lust. If you're telling a girl that, if you're telling whoever's telling whatever, are you being honest with yourself enough to be like, you might want to be with me, but and then we're not really getting to know each other enough either. Like people just kind of get
Mhm.
together, we go through the whole rigmarole, we have sex, da da da. So it's like you don't really know who you're with, and then they don't really know who they're with, and that's because neither of you know who yourselves enough.
Yeah, well
So
said.
then it ends up in all this
Okay.
thing. Sorry, go ahead.
So we no, 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 we got like tons of amazing insight. We
Mhm.
know kind of who you are, what informed your music. We know that you're going to be future Prime Minister of Canada at some point. Storyteller. Um, I know that you have to go at some point
Yeah,
and catch a
I have
flight,
about
but I
30
want to
more
focus.
minutes tops.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I want to like kind of go into artistry and obviously acting, right? Because you've got a whole bunch of other stuff coming up. Um, so with music, being an independent artist, you've already said a lot. You've mentioned that you have to stay informed. You can't just rely, like, make the art and then rely on everyone else. I do think it's really important to have a team. Like I've learned that artists need teams because it's a lot of work to do everything, and we cannot be masters of all. Like we need to have expertise in certain areas, and then have other people that are also experts that go and help us with various tasks. I mean, that's just good business. That's just good leadership, right? Like outsourcing and
Yeah. The team is
what well, where were you in your career where you said, okay, like I got amazing music, I can do certain stuff by myself, and then now I'm going to get with these people to help me go to the next level? Like, talk to me a bit about you as an independent artist. Like, what are some of the best things you've done, some of the worst things that you've done, some of the pitfalls?
mm,
Because that's important for all the other people that are coming up behind Raleigh. They're like,
yeah,
I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to get to 1.25 million streams. Congratulations, by the
no
way.
thanks. It's a little more than that now, but it's
Okay, well, what is it now?
I don't really know. I kind of stopped focusing on streams just because um the nature of the predatorialness of the companies that our music is on now,
You just proved your point, though. You just proved your point because you're like that. The focus on the success, the focus on the streaming, that is not focusing on yourself,
Yeah,
right? You said it earlier. I'm making music because I love my music,
yeah,
and whether one person hears it or 1 billion people hear it, that's up to God.
yeah.
I just need to focus on what makes me happy. And I think that's one of the hardest things for most artists to swallow, that like there's no formula to being successful.
No.
And if you're worried about being successful, you're missing the point.
Well, success I've learned, from me at least, my ongoing, ever upgrading definition of success is how many times did you show up? However many times I showed up was how many times I was, if I don't show up, then I may not be successful. You know what I mean? And by showing up, I also mean, so with the music, it's like I realized, so to answer your question, I realized I was in Canada. Oh, gotta plug in this quick second, sorry. For that. Okay. I realized that I needed a team. I had reached a certain level of, okay, I've been doing this for a while by myself. I'm not getting anywhere, and it really isn't an option for me to. Let me make sure the computer doesn't die. It really isn't an option for me to stop because I didn't come this far to come this far. It just wouldn't be fair to myself. So I was looking around Toronto and Canada, and I was reaching out to people because for at one point I'm like, I could do this in Canada. I can rally people, and you can rally people. You can get some things done. But then it was like there was still so much development I needed business wise and also artistically to understand. Um, when you're looking for a team as an independent artist, you need to be able to find people that can bring you results, people that
Yeah.
can actually do what they say they're going to do. And then the other half of it is like you're so excited as an artist when you meet someone that's like, I'm a manager, I'm an agent. But like, you forget to ask, what have you worked on? Who have you made big? What was the last artist you worked on? What was the last contract you got them? And people in Canada, there's a culture of feeling embarrassed or maybe scared to ask those questions because you don't want to like offend people because you ask those questions and people get offended. You want people to get offended because if those people get offended, they're not the people for you. You know what I mean? They're not anybody that's really serious about themselves and what they're trying to do for you musically is going to be like, oh yeah, you know what? We just did a tour in Europe for so and so and so. Or, oh yeah, we just marketed, da, 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 we got this. They're going to be proud to share with you. If not, they might offer that information before you even ask if they're really serious. We don't have a culture like that in Canada. At the time, I didn't know it. So I wasted a lot of times. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna manage you, and superficial, on paper, off paper, or yeah, I'm gonna radio promote you and then pay me $5,000 and then up front, and then it was like nothing to show for. So it was like so many different mistakes. You have that as well anywhere you go in the world. Like you can find people like that everywhere. However, coming to America, you know, like you mentioned, they have so many more resources, money, and they have a lot more individuals that are serious about it. You know what I mean? And there is there's many infrastructures in place. It's not just one music industry. There's you that's why you have different paths to success in music. Some people make it like Jay-Z, some people make it like Tupac, some people make it like Beyonce, some people are like Glorilla, some people like their paths are all different. Their teams were all different. And
Yeah.
so I realized I was like not really getting anywhere with music industry people. So I thought to myself, I was like, well, maybe I just need to do business. So I was like, I don't need a person that shoots artists. Maybe I could just go find a photographer. You know, maybe I can outside of of course you need a studio, or of course you need a mixing engineer, but you don't have to work with a mixing engineer here. You know, you now the internet, you can work with them anywhere, or you can do mastering anywhere. Then it was like, I need investment. Well, I learned, I'm like, well, there's doctors that need to offload money, or companies that need to offload money, or people looking to give money or get rid of money. Why do I need a record label? If because and when you so I had to get business focused in a sense of like,
Yeah.
how do I think outside of this box called the music industry? And then when I started doing that, I realized I'm like, oh, people in the music industry that are successful aren't doing music industry shit. They're doing business. And that's what labels do. And then it started to open my eyes. You know, when you have record labels, yeah, they outsource. They have some labels have teams inside, but nowadays we know the label outsources everything. So
Big
they're doing
time.
business. So I was like, okay, how do I learn to do business? So that's how I came to that. And then I was like, I need to have a team because, like you said, I can't be every hat at one time, and you kind of need all those gears working at once to continue to get to the next level. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I have a team. I'm still building my team,
Mhm.
but I'm kind of like, okay, whoever's attracted to me and coming to me with offers, whether that be a manager or that be this or that or the third, you know, and then ask them straight up. What can you do for me? Who are your contacts? What have you done before? Why do you see yourself wanting to work with me, or what is it about me and my artistry that connects with you? These are questions almost no artist, especially independent artist, asks. So
Yeah. That's a very sharp response. And I mean, the same topics prevail, right? Like making sure you're staying informed, asking questions, believing in yourself, all super important points. Uh, I mean, if you look at it, if you look at the industry in general, just music, I'm sure this applies to other ones. So many of the people that are running these big companies, making moves, they're lawyers, they're business leads. Like, how many labels started by lawyers from lawyers? You know what I mean? Like, they understand the business and the law and how to move things around. Um,
and just a side
ask
note
questions.
to tell you, know, like SoCan, I always believed in SoCan is great. SoCan, but one of the things I learned too is like as an artist, you can't expect like all these things that are already in place, like they're doing what they're doing already. So it's just about inserting yourself in, or crossing lines with them in a sense where it's like, let me communicate with you and see, you know, how I comply with this because I'm doing this, or, you know, do I need to talk to you? So it's like, you're right. Those people that are doing business, it's not really their responsibility to even set another infrastructure. But so that's what I found. But sorry to cut you, but I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, no, no,
SoCan is
no.
one of those staples that I feel personally every time I call SoCan, they were there to help, but they're also just like, we're here. They're not really, and they're doing what they're doing, but it's like, we're here, and then if you show up, we'll help, and they do help. You know, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's so many moving parts, right? You mentioned it earlier, when a business gets to a certain size and then you don't have like the efficiencies internally, like is the company operating properly? Are people getting the message? Because it's communication breakdown. It happens all the time. I mean, I worked at BlackBerry for a while, and they expanded so fast. They had something like 20,000 employees. They had two, like co-CEOs. There was so there's so much lack of communication internally that I remember at one point there was, I don't know, 1,000 plus different like marketing resources they were using for different teams, and like, oh, we outsource to these guys and we print here, and they're like, hold on, why are we spending all this money doing that? We should have like a handful of like key partners to
Mhm.
save us cost.
Mhm.
That painting above me, I don't know if you can see
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty cool.
That's the original architect's rendering of the current SOCAN building. My grandfather
Wow.
gave that to me as like one of his gifts when he passed away. Um, and he was always this like super rad dude who spoke like 10 languages and hunted and fished. He knew everything. He was kind of like Bond, you know, like he just knew everything. Grandpa always, and when he was setting up, when he was working on SOCAN, like to help kind of get the company um, going, he was always the kind of guy that authentically just wanted to help. He wanted to help as many people as possible. Like I can't just speak to what SOCAN is now,
Mhm.
um, but I think that that is such an important point. You've talked about like finding people, finding teams. How do you know if someone is authentically wanting to help, likes your music, or just playing the part of that person?
Mhm.
Uh, you have to ask
Gotta
questions. You
ask
have to
questions.
do work. The due diligence will give you the answer. I mean, you can vibe, you can feel if someone's real,
Mhm.
but there's also a lot of people that are good
Yeah.
at coming across as real.
And you got to know what to ask. So it just goes back
Yeah,
to like artists no longer can we afford to be um you know ignorant about the business because every artists want to make money, and the biggest misconception is fame equals money. It does not.
yeah,
Not at all. And so it's like, so the more people that know you, because even right now with my current situation, like I have a lot of music that's in Europe, some in Africa, like because of the streaming service. But there's a disconnect right now. I'm working on getting marketing and working with a market, like finding a marketing team or company to help me like, because now we got to put a face to the music so people know my music, they just don't know me, and
yeah,
and even if there's a lot of artists that they have a lot of fans, but it's like if you don't have someone putting together tours or someone an official website or a place where people can become a super fan or you can connect directly with the listener. I think
yeah,
that is the number one job next to making music an artist has. How can I connect with the people that listen to my music? If we
yeah,
can kind of focus on that one extra step outside of making the music, then it'll lead us to everything else because then we'll think of ways, well, okay, well, how, what do I need to connect to these fans, or what platform do I need, or who's gonna take me to your, like, what I mean? It's like, how do I, if Joe and Jill was sitting like at home listening to my music and they wanted to know more about me, or they wanted more access to me, or they wanted to know everything about Raleigh, how do I get that to them, or how do I speak
yeah.
to them, or where do I show up for them so that they can find me and then they can come to my spaces on a daily, because those things translate into money and then you can make a living off of your music.
Yeah. It's funny. So with V13 Promotions, our artist development agency, one of the things that we've kind of really shifted hard into when it comes to branding and marketing of these independent artists that are just starting out, maybe they're like a couple albums in, oftentimes it's their first go. How do I connect? Like I'm trying to do this. Stop trying to do stuff. Stop going outwards, go inwards. Who are you?
Hmm.
Don't worry about connecting with people. Let people connect with
Yeah.
you. Right. So, like, we've got an artist in Ireland, and he's this amazing guy who's had a career, and he's like, I think in his mid 40s, maybe 50s. I'm so sorry. I don't know your age. Don't, at me for saying you're older than you are, Garrett. But he's got incredible music and he's just starting his career, and he's like one of those guys that could out of nowhere just be massive. He was trying to do so many things, and we said, like, where do you live?
Hmm.
What are you doing? And then all of a sudden he started to just go to like old castles and like go in a field and show the countryside and just talk about him and his history and like Ireland. That was starting to pop off.
Hmm.
We had another artist in Canada. folk, alt folk
Hmm.
artist, Kentucky, and same thing. He was really talking about his music and trying to put as many like reels out and talk about the music and the next video and the tour. And then as soon as we had that conversation with him, and he started to talk about like what it's like to be a Canadian artist and his perspective of the US and this, all of a sudden he was getting thousands of impressions and hundreds of likes because he was just being himself. And that's my ultimate answer right now is that if you want to brand or market yourself, do this.
Hmm.
You are what's fucking interesting.
Hmm.
That's what people gravitate towards. And then people start to say, I like this person. Oh, there's music. Oh my God, the music's really good. Okay, okay, I see what's happening here. So be like brutally honest, be brutally real, be brutally you,
Hmm.
and then let people latch onto that, not something artificial and out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the systems are easy. We got all the digital platforms like possible. So you have to know how to use like the algorithm and IG
Yeah.
and TikTok, whatever you're
Yeah.
using, fine. But the content is the most important thing. Show up,
Yeah.
create, be you. Show up, create, be you. And you have to constantly repeat it and never stop.
Right. Yeah, because that's it. It's just like how often are you showing up? That is going to determine what kind of success you have. You know what I mean? And sometimes you're not going to be able to show up for everything, which is okay because then it kind of comes down to like, well, is everything for you? Some things aren't going to be for you and you shouldn't show up. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely right.
Mhm.
Okay, so Echoes of Rawle EP later this year, 6 songs, one song's out. What is Echoes of Rawle?
So it's going to be 7 songs. I added a song.
Okay.
And Echoes of Raleigh is so I just had this last little bit of like struggle I've been through. I just had to get it off my mind, my heart, my chest, and so it's kind of just a compilation of that. The last EP project I put out in 2022 was like Find My Way, and I quite literally was like, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do. I just got to LA 2021, 2022, and um, I kind of got my bearings now, and I'm kind of understanding who I am and what I want to do moving forward. I'm not really so much questioning what kind of artist I'm gonna be or what kind of music I'm gonna make, and I'm not feeling pressured to fit into a box of what's out there, what is being perceived to be hot or popular or whatever. Um, so Echoes of Raleigh is just that. It's basically when I sat down with Canadian Grammy producer Jonathan Watts and Grammy nominated Andrina Miller, aka the Black Lotus. They're both Canadian. And Andrina, she said to me, she's like, it's time. People need to just see you. We're doing a project about you. And I was like, ah. So she was like, every song that we do, let's pick a word. And each song that we do is going to represent a word, and that word has to come through in some way in that song. And
Hmm.
and then yeah, so at that moment, I kind of was just like, okay, what is it I want to say that I haven't said? What are the things that maybe I want want to say and I'm afraid to say? Because I might think it's corny or people might not like it or whatever. And just point blank period, how am I feeling? So that's kind of how this project came about, and it just became. I thought about it. I'm like, these are the echoes of things, you know,
Nice.
because everybody's got an echo, a voice,
Yeah.
and sometimes we push
Yeah.
things back. So that's kind of like what it was, and I was like, that's what I'm going to name it because after it was all said and done, each song is it's all tied together on my about my journey. So I started with like I have this unconditional love. I'm a lover. I believe in love. I believe in light and positivity and things like that. But most importantly, one of the key factors was my mother. And so I didn't want to necessarily write a song about mothers but I was like I want this to be about my mom for me at least, but I want to write it for people to receive it in a way for however they whatever that means to them or to trigger them. So that's how unconditional came about. And then the other projects on there, songs on there like Energy, Can't Stop. These are some of the titles. And then I Got You, I'm Still Standing, Do You Know, and then One Shot. So One Shot is like it's a club banger. It's like one of those like fun, upbeat. Can't Stop is like kind of relationship based. Energy is fun, flirty, light. I want to go out, have fun, I have a crush type
Mhm.
of song. And then I'm Still Standing and I Got You are personal letters to myself. And then and it's really cool when you guys will finally get to hear it, how we did that song. It was amazing. I'm not gonna really say too much about it, but I'm really
Okay.
happy about those songs because they incorporated some cool stuff. Um, and then Do You Know is it's just basically it's a love song. It's like a ballady because I'm a ballady type of guy. I like to write ballads, so I was like, I need my ballad. There's some artists like Luke Halla. She's Canadian as well. She does like pop. She's a black pop artist. She's pretty big. She's over here in the States, so she does a lot of pop. And she had a song that inspired that song. She did a ballad. I was like, I need my ballad. So that's kind of how that came about. And so yeah, the project Echoes of Raleigh. I'm planning to release that probably top of next year. You guys are gonna get another single in September that I'm really excited about because there's a feature on there that's huge for me. And then we're gonna release one more, and then the project will be out. And then there's gonna be a video series. So what
Nice.
I wanted to do to tie into the acting. Um, I started acting. I'm going to be in some upcoming films. One of my mentors, Lisa Wu, she's ex Atlanta Housewife. She's a filmmaker, director, done a bunch of movies, TV shows, reality shows. I'm in a few of her upcoming stuff. I just did not a cameo, but like I'm in the. I had a line that they didn't. I had a couple lines. They didn't use the lines, but I'm still in the movie. The first one, it's a sequel. There's three of them, and it's a horror movie. And so I'm in that, and then in the sequel and the follow up, I have like a main character, and that one's starring like Clifton Powell and Bill Duke and these legendary actors and Aaron Spears. Her upcoming ones are gonna be featuring like people like Kevin Hart and stuff. So I don't want to like say too much, but so that inspired me because I was like, you know what? Instead of just giving you guys a visual like a traditional music video, which I'm giving you guys for Unconditional, I believe the post should drop today. The snippet of the visual for the video,
Mhm.
we also did like created a whole acting scene. So we have a storyline for Echoes of Rawle where Lisa Wu is featured as my ancestral spiritual guide through it, and each song is an episode. And I'll give you the exclusive. So essentially, what it is I come to this house, and I'm in the house, and then it's a house that I since left and forgotten. Theme of like kind of everything we were talking about before. Come into the house, Lisa appears, and I'm like, and then she's like, I'm like, why this house is familiar, and she's like, I'm like, why now? She's like, oh, you're listening, that's a little bit of the dialogue, and she guides me to these doors, and each door is a music video, and then once the music video is done, I come back out of the room, and then we interact, and she leads me to the next door, and it's kind of like a little episodic short film. So that's the plan.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like you really like. I mean, everything about this conversation and your career so far sounds like it's very methodical and thought out and intentional, right? Like you're being intentional with your choices and whatnot.
Mhm.
I'm really happy for you, man. It
Thank
sounds like it's on the precipice of something much bigger, much more grandiose, and you're just getting started.
Yes.
I really appreciate you sharing so much with me today. You mentioned your mom. You're obviously a very spiritual, enlightened person. We're on similar paths in terms of like going inward and focusing on ourselves and loving ourselves, and then allowing that to hopefully help others along the way. Do you have any people outside of mom, dad that you idolize? Like maybe there's some actor, musician, poets out there that you and I both like that you are like, I want to strive for that.
Definitely. Well, you mentioned somebody like, so I don't idolize, but I aspire, to
Mm,
be like to show up in similar ways that these people have. You mentioned Tupac. He's especially on a political front. I definitely aspire to always be bold, confrontational, not in a because people think confrontation is a negative thing, and it can be, but confrontation just means confronting, confronting
yes.
things. And so I love Usher. If there's anybody that I would say I've idolized, it would have been him. Um, and then I'm inspired by Boyz II Men, Chris Brown, Luther Vandross. I'm a big Adele fan. I'm a big Celine Dion fan. I'm a big Sam Smith, Ed Sheeran. I'm kind of across the board. Aaliyah was a huge
Nice.
influence on me. Um, who else? Let's see. A lot of Canadians. Like I grew up with like watching like is it Julie Black? Julie Black.
You mean Friday? No,
Friday.
that's
Julie
Rebecca
Black is
Black.
like an older artist. Back in when like the Masari, like the Canadian artists, like the Masaris and the Julie Blacks and the Socrates, and these are like the Canadian back in the days. So some of the Canadian ones, Tamia. But as far as like, yeah, that's really it. I definitely looked up to like or try to model myself after like business wise like Quincy Jones. You know,
Hmm.
I look at people that really I look at the track record. When you look at people who are still around because of Quincy Jones or had great careers because that's who they were connected to. Somebody posed a question to me a long time ago, like, would you rather be like Diddy or this is before the whole Diddy thing, but
Don't answer that now.
disclaimer. No, but I answered it correctly from decades ago. So I was like, Jay Z was the other one, and I said to them, I was like, well, why would I want to be like Diddy? I was like, and because I was like, when I look at Jay Z, how many artists are now billionaires? How many artists have had successful careers that have come through Jay Z? Despite whatever, Jay Z has a track record. Quincy Jones has a
Yeah.
track record. When you look at Diddy, does not have that same track record when it comes to has he produced artists that have sustained careers? No, he has not. Has he? Yeah, nothing. So it's like that. That's kind of how I those are the people and things like where my attention and my idolization or my aspirations would be towards.
I agree. And me, you are coming back to that same point earlier about asking the questions and saying like, what have you done? How am I? Because if you can't aspire to something if how do I phrase this? Is the Mark Wahlberg analogy that I heard like years and years ago. He said, "Why would you take fitness advice from someone that doesn't have the body that you want?" Like whatever you want, find
Yeah,
that and then learn from that person, inspire
yeah.
that person. I don't know what it was, but when I was on your website, looking you up over the last week or so, I was getting Common vibes. Like there was a lot of like, I really like Common. I've seen him live a couple times. I mean, he's got music and poetry and
Mhm.
activism and acting, and it's not the skin color. I'm
Mm,
just saying like
mm.
that's
No,
the
of course. Yeah,
person that
yeah, yeah.
I
I didn't
follow.
take it that way
You know,
by
and
any means.
I don't mean it for you. I mean for people watching.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no worries.
But I'm really excited, man. I'm really happy
Thank
that
you.
we had this chat. I really appreciate your time.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to see kind of like where things go to watch your career. Let's chat again
Yes.
in a
And
year
I'm
and
looking to
see
connect
like
more with like more stuff in Canada. Like I do want like I mean it's funny because even my right now I have a publicist, a radio promoter, I have my producers. Like that's kind of like how my team is right now. I'm still adding
yeah,
and trying to build the rest of the team, but mostly everyone on the team that's worked on this project except for the radio promoter is Canadian. They're
nice.
all in the States, but they're Canadian. So I was like, it just shows me that I wasn't necessarily wrong. Like Canada can be and has the potential to be the place to build the world class artists. Because we exist. It's just having that infrastructure at home and being able to have enough like-minded individuals actually work together and collaborate. And competition can be healthy. I think artists. This is what I want to leave with this podcast too. If other artists are watching this, don't fall for the hype. Like when you're looking at exactly on your note, like if I'm looking at someone that I aspire to be like, I have to get advice from someone that's doing what I'm trying to do and doing it well, not what they appear to be doing. You got to really look
Yeah,
into it and see, well, is this real? Fame and when you see the success of like maybe some industry artists, now the veil is coming down, so we're learning that a lot of these artists aren't as they're not wealthy. The label has them in debt or they're broke or the stuff is rented. It's the life that you think that you're gonna get might not be that what you see. You can still build the life you want, be the architecture. You can still have the bling and the success and the money, but you have to really be the captain of your ship to understand how to navigate that way and don't expect someone to give that to you because the only person that has your back better than you, there is nobody that has your back better than you. It's you.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like because even when I the current team that I have, I tell them it's like even when you have a team, all those people are working for you and with you, yes, but they all have self-serving interests. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is in it for themselves too. And you want people to feel validated for being in it for themselves. Because what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, artists like, yeah, they're working for me, and artists get this attitude and like, I'm the best, and nobody like da 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 da, and they act like a diva in that way. But in any sense, it's like you want your team to, you want your publicist to build their career and be the best at what they do. You want them to feel that their interest in building themselves that way should be priority to them. Because if that's priority to them, they're going to do it for you. They're going to say, okay, this is somebody that gets me. They're giving me a chance. I can do this for them. But at the same time, that person's building their career as a publicist, or your manager is building themselves. They're not going to only want to manage you. Maybe they will. There's some managers that only manage one person, but famous manager Chris Smith has a management. He's managed many people. Nelly Furtado is one of his artists. It's like you want a manager to be the best manager they can be for you and then for other people. Same thing with your marketing. You want to work with people that are interested in growing themselves and having their self-interest. So don't necessarily get caught up on that people only can work with you and for you, and you have to understand that you want to look for people that are very self-interested in what they do and how they do it, especially for you. So that's it. I'll leave it with that. I'll leave it at that. I can go on forever.
I love that. We mentioned this before we started chatting, right? So I believe that love and logic, love layered with logic, that is the
Oh,
picture.
that's beautiful.
And then if you take that picture, it's not me against the world, it's we
We,
against the world.
yeah.
And you said this earlier. I got this tattooed right here. Choose love,
Just
man.
love. That's it. Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope all the best, man.
Thank you so
And we'll
much.
talk again soon.
I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
for being on the Dealer Podcast.
Yes, thank you.